Hey, I'm Calvin Hartley. I'm from Grand Rapids, Michigan. This is a roller coaster that I've put together. Uh,
So there's some unique elements of this coaster. Besides the fact that it's a massive, very tall roller coaster, you've got some nice decorations on the bottom. I guess it's the people riding the coaster.
yes, it is. There's about 270 banana minifigs, and I guess they just really like the roller coaster.
So was the bananas an afterthought after the coaster was finished?
Yeah, the bananas, I was working on the coaster, and I happened to find the banana figure for sale on a really steep discount, so I just figured I'd get them all. Everyone needs an army. And they fit well here.
No, they add some nice color to the build, but obviously the main part of the build is the roller coaster, which is very impressive here. So talk about kind of the construction and where you started with this.
Oh, so it's it took a lot of trial and error, and you can see I still occasionally have to work with some issues. I started out, I knew I wanted to do a loop. I started working on this shortly after LEGO released the original roller coaster set, which didn't have a loop. Now, of course, they just announced one that does have a loop. I'm excited to get, but I started with the loop, and I went through 3 or 4 major iterations of that loop design before I settled on this that I'm pretty happy with. After that, I just made towers that were tall enough to get it through the loop and finished up the rest of the track.
Yeah, that's a tremendous drop there. So how tall is this at its highest point?
It's about 4 feet tall. Yep.
And is that about how tall you found it needed to be to go through the loop?
Yeah, it's a good height that gets through the loop but doesn't have too much speed coming out of it. Since the curves are flat and not banked at all, you can't go through a turn too quickly or it'll fall off the track. So it was a balance to be able to get through the loop but be able to get rid of some of that momentum so that it'll actually run through the rest of the track as well.
So once you figured out the highest point there, how did the rest of it come together?
So the rest of it, I had also played around with building this helix. The steep drop, the loop, and the helix are all sort of stretching the parts outside of their design. So these are the flat curves that I just kind of stretched and forced into that helix. So I actually have never had any problems with that. I built it once. It works great. Really happy with that. Most of the effort goes into the drop and the loop.
Gotcha. Does it affect the pieces in any way to kind of curve them like that?
I'm sure this has been put together for a couple of years now, and I'm sure that they've taken, I'll actually pull one off. There's probably a bend to it that is pretty subtle, but it's definitely stressing the plastic a little bit. But
So how does this thing kind of run then in terms of like power? What's powering it?
Yep, so it's powered. I'm using one of the older Mindstorms NXT brick, and it's running some power functions motors. There's just wheels in the station that push the train along. And once it catches the chain, this chain works just the same way as the standard Lego set. The hill, in fact, is the same idea, just much taller. And then once it reaches the top of the hill, gravity takes over just like a real roller coaster from there.
Does the chain element tend to work pretty well, or do you have to kind of take links out, put links in, that sort of thing?
I do have a tensioner here built in that helps keep the chain, so there can be a little bit of variability on the length. And then occasionally I will adjust the chain and replace, if it breaks, I'll replace that link because they do wear out over time.
Do you know how many red track pieces there are in the whole build?
I don't know how many track pieces. I know that there's a little bit less than 2,000 of these white round bricks, but that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, you needed a lot of a few very significant pieces.
Yeah, it was definitely a few big orders.
How long is this whole thing?
It's just a little bit under 8 feet long.
Wow, yeah. Very impressive. So obviously you've gotten this to work out, and you mentioned Lego did just release their own significant roller coaster set. Any plans of your own to expand on this idea?
Yeah, I definitely would like to expand this further, especially this weekend. I feel like I've gotten the loop working fairly well, generally reliably. There's always going to be some issues, but well enough that I want to make it probably longer. I've even thought about, could I go taller? What's the next step? So definitely looking forward to experimenting more with it. And I have lots more track at home. So.
You can also have some more fun like what you've got going on back here. You got to have the battle action.
Right. So everyone loves a good battle. Once I had all of the banana minifigures, I had the Banana figure from the Lego movie, and I thought, oh, that's perfect. I can put him in there. So I bought more of those. And when the Mandalorian battle packs came out, I'm a big fan of Star Wars, so I picked some of those. I thought, man, a Mandalorian armory would be fun. So then when I had these two different armies, I thought, well, I can put them together in a big battle, and everyone gets a kick out of it.
Now, obviously, bringing this type of a build-out to a convention, you've got to work with tables and some maybe uneven surfaces. How do you work around those types of challenges?
Yeah, so I've done different things. At this show, it's all fits on one 8-foot table, which is really what helps it run the best, is having one single surface. I've had it on multiple tables before. I can make it work, but it definitely struggles some. So yeah, definitely running on one table is a big help.
Okay, well, great work here, and I'm glad to see that the coaster is operating most of the time, at least, as it's intended to. So keep up the great work. Can't wait to see what you do in the future.
All right, thank you very much.